Somehow, some way, Snow White has managed to come in even under what they were saying just 24 hours earlier. Folks, we're here to tell you that the box office projections, the headlines, the statements, they're all wrong. They're imaginary. And the reality that Disney is now faced with is that Snow White managed to make $2 million less than what already was an undressing for the House of Mouse. Rachel Zegler, though, still taking credit. We'll dive into the latest disaster right now. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and happy Tuesday morning to each and every one of you out there. We are so happy that you have come our way. We're explaining entertainment and keeping you ahead of the culture curve is what we do each and every day. We'll dive in right now, but all we ask is that you click that like button, and here we go. All right, folks, take a look at this. It's out of That Park Place by Marvin Montanaro. It says, Snow White opening box office final numbers reveal it's even worse than expected. Oh, Zegler, my Zegler, how can we help you? Just when it seemed like Disney's Snow White couldn't sink any lower, the final opening weekend box office numbers are in, and they're somehow even worse than early projections suggested. Heading into the weekend, the narrative around Snow White was already dire. Analysts predicted a soft opening somewhere in the range of 45 million domestically. As of Sunday, the weekend box office was projected at 43 million. Even those modest expectations reflected serious trouble, making it one of the weakest debuts for any of Disney's live-action remakes. We'll switch here so you guys can see the screen a little bit better. All right, continue right on down. Now, final box office tallies show that Snow White didn't even clear that already dismal bar. The domestic box office opening figure, 42.2 million. That's right, folks. They told you it was going to be 44. Think that no more. It is $42 million. And it was not so long ago that they thought it was going to break 100, then it was going to break 80, then it was going to be 65 to 85, then it was going to be 55, 42 million. That's where we are. Yes, Snow White is bombing at the box office, says Paul Tassi. Paul Tassi is even saying it's bombing. Well, sort of. Out of Forbes, he says, Snow White did not impress critics with its 44% score on Rotten Tomatoes, but even with a higher 74% audience score, which, by the way, is misleading. That's only if you click the verified. If you go to the everybody who wants to just, click and review, it's way lower. The movie is, in fact, currently bombing at the box office, at least according to these initial figures. And he goes on to list out why it's in bomb territory, because Lion King opened to 191, Beauty and the Beast at 174, Alice in Wonderland opened to 116, The Jungle Book to 103, The Little Mermaid at 95, Aladdin at 91, Maleficent at 69, Cinderella at 67, Snow White and the Huntsman at 56, Dumbo at 46, Snow White, they're giving it 43, Mufasa at 35. Now, Snow White is at 43, but I'll tell you, adjusted for inflation, it gets way worse than that because movie ticket prices have essentially doubled over the last 10 years. Says there are very few ways to spin that. Snow White is close to the worst performing live-action Disney adaptation ever. Yeah. Places like Game Rant are even reporting accurately now. Catherine Armisen Martin is the author, says Snow White's box office isn't the fairy tale ending that Disney hoped for. It seems as if the legacy and access media is giving up on all of it. Panel, let's go to you at this time. Snow White did not even make what the headlines said. It was headline after headline telling you that 45, 46, 45, 46. No. It's low. And it's just so sad now that they'll have to go back and revise those articles to tell the truth. Panel, what say you? How bad is this?
It was actually really interesting this weekend because we were covering it for That Park Place pretty much all weekend. And you watched the mainstream media spin stop today. Like it stopped like right around sometime last night. And for all weekend, they were like, Snow White tops the box office. Snow White is the fairest of them all at the box office. They were trying to spin. Snow White's doing better than Dumbo, like as if that was some mark of excellence. And then it did worse than Dumbo. On Saturday, that was the mark. It was, well, it's doing better than Dumbo. And today, they can't spin it anymore. It is absolutely insane to me the number of knots that the mainstream media can tie itself into in order to defend Disney, to defend this movie in particular, to defend Rachel Zegler, to try to shift blame onto someone like Gal Gadot. It's absolutely disgusting. And we watched them come to their senses. We watched them hit that point where they were like, guys, no one's buying this. We have to shift the narrative. Sorry, Bob, but we're going to have to actually tell the truth for once, like that Park Place does. And it has been amazing to see them finally have to show their rear ends to the world and admit, this bombed. This is terrible.
Go back to that picture of Rachel, if you don't mind.
Vash, can you do that for me real quick? I'm pulling something else we've got to get.
I got it. There you go.
Do you guys remember, I think it was in the 90s, when there was a little short parody of the Star Wars movies that was Thumb Wars? Do you remember that?
Yeah,
I absolutely do.
Picture her face on one of those Thumb Wars characters.
Oh, no. Lauren, why'd you do that?
Let's make it even worse. Are you ready for this? Are you ready for this, folks? Take a look. Zegler actually had the, I don't know what you want to call this, the courage, the insanity, tenacity. I don't know what you want to call this.
Audacity, hubris.
Yeah, hubris. That's what we'll go with. That's perfect. To post herself coming out of her trailer, all 5'2" of her. Her shoulders almost reach. She actually. I see now why they couldn't put dwarfs in the movie, real dwarfs, because they might have out verticaled her. But Zegler actually has the audacity and the hubris to post #1 movie in the world. Zegler did that. This movie is a flop of all flops, and Zegler is out there posting as if she is the champion. I feel like she should have Queen playing in the background.
Well, this is similar to that. I don't remember who it was that posted it, but in our back channels was saying that Disney was positioning this as the #1 most talked about movie in the world.
Oh, you believe that?
Which I guess, sure,
no such thing as bad publicity.
You're technically true, but I'm still saying I think she belongs in a movie with Ooby Doo Banooby.
Actually, we've got that. Let me pause the trailer. They'll ding us. They're not happy right now. I can't imagine why. Let me show this to everybody. Lauren, as you're saying that, I've got this pulled up now. Walt Disney Studios on X. Yeah, they're back there posting again. Walt Disney Studios, they couldn't stay too long. Says, the most talked about movie of the year arrives. Disney Snow White is now playing in theaters.
Let's check the hidden comments.
Folks, apologies if it gets vulgar as we scroll down. Let's see.
But you got
Valiant Renegade. There's somebody I muted. That's rare. I think there's like 5 total muted accounts. Tactical Jetty said, if this movie was played on an airplane, I would still watch. That's it. It's too good. I can't even read anymore. You can't beat that one. Right off the bat, it's so good you can't. If this was played on an airplane, I would still walk out. You win the internet. What's the name of that account? Hang on a second.
something Jedi.
Tactical Jedi.
Well,
you
to be
win.
fair,
part of the song.
to be fair to Tactical Jedi, it is the first line of the song.
Right.
The song of 5 comments from the trailer that got millions of views. So
it wins. All right. So the projections were terrible. The actual numbers are even worse. So guys, let's walk through this. What does it mean? Because when we see that it actually fails to perform up to the already low expectations, the question becomes, for the second weekend, does it now perform like the Marvels? The Marvels has had an excess of 80% drop. This might, because of the way this is going, it actually could have 77, 79, 81% drop first to second weekend. And that's doomsday.
Or will this have the car accident factor where everyone's going to want to go see it?
No, Lauren's been through it. Nobody left that theater and said, hey, you got to go see how bad it is.
I think anybody who wanted to see this movie would have seen it opening weekend. And after that, who's left? I mean, there can't be that many people. I mean, maybe the Amish, because they don't have the internet to see all the comments and everything. But I mean,
they can't see movies anyway.
Actually, that's not true.
The problem is that there's an embarrassment. I told you, I didn't want to go and say 1 for Snow White. And I'm joking, but I'm also not. I don't want to be the guy that has to go in and buy that ticket. after hearing everybody in the world, not just us, not movie buffs, movie geeks, people that follow entertainment, the mainstream is talking about this. Who's going to want to be to go pay ticket price for this when you know it's going to be out on Disney Plus in a couple of weeks?
My wife is typically very out of this stuff. She does not tend to follow because, quite frankly, she doesn't care and she has better things in her mind to pay attention to. She's noticing and she's paying attention. And when she brings this stuff up, that is not a good sign. And I mean that in like the nicest way. Like this is going to be a dumpster fire. I mean, we knew that. We've known this for 2 years. But I think it's the fact that we were also right about how this is going to go, that it's kind of the, You know what I mean?
Well, let me show you something
Anyone
that's
could see that, yeah.
let me show you something that's really interesting right now. So if we go back to the what is this one? This is Game Rant. I want to read this. There's a paragraph in here that really matters because the typical way that Disney does things is that they have people that go out and say the things that Disney really wants them to say. And then somehow, some way, folks were not alleging anything, but somehow, some way, later on, those people get invited to stuff and get little magical cupcakes named after them. They get to ride rides 5 minutes early. I'm not claiming anything, folks. Take a look at this paragraph, though. Again, out of Game Rant. Before Snow White hit theaters, the early reactions were promising. Okay. What early reactions were there? Who? Oh, the people who got
social
invited.
media people?
The people who got invited to the fake premiere. Remember that? Skylar Schuler, co-founder of the Diz Insider and host of Diz Insider Pods, shared a brief thought about the movie on X, formerly Twitter, and said it was pure Disney magic. He didn't want to share too much because the review embargo wasn't lifted at the time. AKA, please don't sue me. According to him, those who enjoyed Aladdin or Cinderella would love Snow White. However, when it finally hit theaters, the audience had another experience. Of course, this goes on to say that the score is low for audience at 74%, which is a bunch of nonsense because Rotten Tomatoes right now, if you click on all audience, it's at 22%. So throw that dumb narrative away. But here's what we got to talk about. You know, places like Game Rant now are calling out the Pixie Dusters by name. I mean, this is cruel to poor Skylar Schuler, but they're being called out for it. And that strategy is being called out. And I'm telling you, the Access legacy media, as long as Disney's tough and strong and doing well, they're not going to complain too much about these whole fake premiere things. But by golly, if things don't go well, you better believe they're going to call this out because they didn't get the invite because they're not going to do what Skylar Schuler will do, which is come out and say, it's glorious. I love the urine, the urine colors over half the film. It was just amazing, magical. Skylar, please don't take that as offense. They put you in this article. We like you. We promise. We only want good things for you. Panel, what do you think, though, about this idea that the Access legacy media is now calling out those who got to walk the red carpet and not them?
Well, I think that they're getting angry, especially because, with there being no press junket. So there was an Instagram account that my wife follows, and it's this Korean family. And like literally, it's just the dad being like, "Do you want cheeseburger or spam musubi?" And the kids are like, "Spam musubi." So she showed me a thing. It's literally those kids sitting with Gal Gadot in a room, and the dad's like, "Do you want Mickey bar or peanut bar?" And then Gal Gadot and the kids are going Mickey bar, and I'm like, "These are the people they were inviting. This is the press they're doing for this movie." The Korean family who talks about food.
Well, you got to start somewhere.
Oh,
I mean, this has been just a train wreck to watch for sure. I mean, we all remember when the institutional media press there was talking about how this is tracking to be anywhere between $60 million and $70 million. And Disney itself came out and said, we want to go ahead and put out figures around 45 to 55. And now, going from 43, which was the estimated total from this weekend's box office, to the actuals of 42 million.
It was 44, and then they pulled it to 43. Now it's down to 42. Folks, this is why we had to do a live show.
Yeah.
Because this is literally breaking today and this evening. $42 million. It keeps going down. Listen, they don't finalize this sometimes until a Tuesday. So there is a chance it actually didn't even hit 42. This is getting crazy.
Now, on the numbers there, Pro, if you go down to international and you see China's box office, that's really interesting because
you want me to go down to the you want me to go into the breakdown by country. Now, I will say that the problem with doing this early is that internationally, some of these countries don't report fully. However, assuming that China is $883,000 is just flat out terrible for a film that is based on a character that China seems to love. So
yes.
if that holds, if that's true,
Wow.
that would be a very bad number. And it just points more towards the idea that China is culturally leaving the West. That's you see it over and over.
They're making their own. They're making their own movies now. We just had the Captain America Must Die movement in China when they put out their own movie against Captain America: Brave New World. It is now considered like a patriotic thing to go see the Chinese movie that comes out against the American movie. They're purposely bombing American movies in China now.
Yeah, that was the intention all along, by the way.
Well, we've also
come on.
There's also the curiosity of, in China, every transactional decision you make weighs upon your social credit score. And so you never can really look at the Chinese numbers and put much confidence in whether or not people like or dislike things, because the entire country is being manipulated. The whole thing, the whole kit and caboodle, the whole economy is manipulated by this social credit score that they wanted to bring to the West. And darn it, we're not eating the bugs. And darn it, we're not watching Snow White with a urine filter over half the film. We're not doing it.
The other thing that might indicate that this film is not going to do well in its success at box office is the CinemaScore. CinemaScore being a B+ right there. I mean, that's before you even get into the controversy that would have prevented people from coming to the theater anyway. But with a B+ CinemaScore, there's no word of mouth. Nobody's going to see this thing. Nobody's recommending this thing to others. Like you said, the all the all public score on Rotten Tomatoes being 22%. That's very indicative of what we're hearing back from people who have actually gone to see this thing. This thing is dead on arrival. I mean, turn up the lights, the party is over.
The CinemaScore.
You said indicate. The thing that's going to indicate that this isn't doing so well. Come on, man.
It's over. It's like trying to get a temperature on at a funeral home. Like we're over it.
Well,
That's a fair point.
The CinemaScore was a thing that they were trying to hold. The media was trying to hold up over the weekend to be like, see, it's doing fine, it's doing great. But it's like, no, for a Disney princess film, a B+ might as well be an F-.
Yes. Yeah, and they also, because some of them knew that was a bad score, so they brought out the CinemaScore related to people under 18 years old. Look, it's A- amongst them. Oh yes, people who aren't paying money to actually go see these things. Oh, go ahead and round of applause for that. I mean, the spin here, it just doesn't exist. There's no going forward for this film, which is why I think the media is churning as we speak right now, because I think they're trying to preserve the reputation associated with this film. If they keep defending this and these numbers keep getting worse, as is very much predicted to do now, they're gonna be out on a limb here.
As recently as March 23rd, The Hollywood Reporter said the Snow White Backlash Brigade isn't going to like this. Snow White First Reactions praise remake. A big surprise. Rachel Zegler stuns. As recently as March 23rd. Folks, I don't think they're going to continue that anymore. The BS has run ashore. It's sunk. It's done. It's over. And now Hollywood is going to have to figure out what it is that audiences want. And here's the thing. I guess this is where we go to for the wrap up of the conversation. Gentlemen, weigh in. Let me know what you think about this. I don't think Disney's going to learn anything from this. I genuinely think that Disney at this point does not respond to negative box office results. And, we're going to have Thunderbolts. We're going to have Fantastic Four. There are some other films that may be flops. And I don't think Disney cares, because I think at the end of the year, they're going to say, look, Lilo and Stitch did good, even though it was made by somebody who we ran off 15 years ago and came back for one film. And I think they're going to say, look, Zootopia 2 did well. And they're going to claim that James Cameron is one of them, and they're going to say that Avatar did well. And they don't care. They don't care. I don't think they care in the C-suite. Like, I think shareholders care, and I think fans care. I think that the C-suite of Disney is so divorced from success and from the public perception and reception of their stuff. I don't think they care.
I would agree with that. I would agree. I would absolutely agree with that. I think though, while negative box office results doesn't faze them, I think positive box office results do, because we started to see now that Inside Out 2 you made all the money it made, Moana 2 made all the money it made. Well, now we see they're shifting to entirely all sequels. They are trying to chase trends. They are trying to chase things that people like. But as long as at the end of the year they have at least 2 or 3 hits, and Bob Iger can stand up there and be like, "Well, we had the biggest family movie of the year," and
right, that's all they care about. And they're going to hide the numbers. They don't care. All right, Lord, I saw you lean forward. I know you had something to say.
No, sorry, I was leaning forward to type in the chat.
Oh.
Yes, I believe he was asked about the holiday special versus Snow White 2025. And, well, I will agree with Lauren's assessment. Snow White 2025, much, much worse. Oh, it's a terrible film. And so anybody standing behind this film, well, you just really can't trust their opinion, which is, I think, why overall the media is just backing away from this thing and going, you know what? Disney's going to give up on this. So are we. By the way, I think I saw a big billboard being removed from Hollywood that had Snow White on it. They've already given up on this. We're done.
Wouldn't you guys say, though, that some of this is an indication that these guys are all eating themselves? Like,
explain. Before we respond to that, clarify that a little bit.
So you got the shills, you got the media. They've been working in tandem over a while. But
yeah. They've got a parasitic relationship with one another.
But now they're coming at each other because the relationship isn't becoming reciprocal, I guess.
Right. That's why it's parasitic instead of symbiotic, because they're not actually interested in the health of the other. They're interested in what they can get out of each other. It's a cyclical parasite system.
Yeah, and so I'm just wondering, like, so because we've seen this how do we word it? The chain of events go on for the last several years, specifically the last 5, where you've seen various franchises where this stuff has happened. You have the shills, you got the media, and they keep kind of working together. And then the audience just completely and utterly rejects whatever they've presented. It's now, I think, is it coming to a head? I don't want to really necessarily make an assumption, but do we think that there's actually a real turn that's really going to begin here?
Okay, let me answer that in a deeper way than I think many would expect, because you've touched on something that we need to bring up, a demographic issue.
Okay,
so I'm trying to get Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen back on the show sometime this week, because there's something here that's amazing, and that is, with the Barbie movie, there was a phenomenon that occurred that Hollywood was very interested in. And that is that if you look at polling, one group, maybe 2 groups, are so far outside of the rest of the country in terms of their worldview, their cultural views, their ideological views, their political views. And that is, 1, college-educated women, and then 2, and there's overlap here, but 2, black women. And so those 2 groups poll in a way that suggests that they are ideologically, politically very different than the rest of the country. And that's fascinating too, because black men don't poll that way. Hispanic women don't poll that way. Non-college educated women don't poll that way. So it's very specific, right? Okay. With the Barbie box office returns, what Hollywood was catching on to there was, if you make a movie for that group in particular, if you make a movie for college-educated women and for black women, you will get this massive support. Like, they will go see films at a level that that other groups just don't go watch these films over and over and over. They're like Marvel fans back in the first phases. The problem is Disney was able to replicate that to some degree with Inside Out 2, and that's how it became the highest performing animated film out of nowhere. Like, it's not as good as the original. It's not as good as some of the other Pixar films that have come out recently, like Coco. And yet, it became the number one animated film ever at the box office. Well, how did that happen? Well, it seems, looking at the data from the box office returns, that very specific subsets of women took their daughters and their nieces, and they went over and over and over. Okay. Snow White. See, I told you, Steve, we were going to go a little deeper than, but Snow White, Disney was counting on Snow White doing that too. And the problem is, it didn't. And the question now becomes, has Disney lost that demographic somehow, some way? Why didn't they come out? Why are they not coming out to support Zegler? What is it that drove them away? And this is one of those rare times, folks, you hear me say over and over, we understand the Holly Weirds in a way that not even they understand. Well, folks, I'm here to tell you, I don't understand why necessarily that demographic just said no to Zegler. I'm not sure yet. We'll dive into the data as it comes in, but it'll take a couple of weeks. Panel, what do you think?
Well, my thoughts on why they said no to Zegler is just because she wasn't playing Snow White. The movie wasn't Snow White. Every trailer that it showed with her staring down the spears pointed at her, you look at that, it's not Snow White. Therefore, they didn't want to see it.
Lauren, you're posting in the chat your thoughts. Sir, would you share them verbally with us? Say it out loud.
She is personally repellent. It's like I watched the movie doing the very could to divorce what I know of Rachel Zegler from the character that she's playing on the screen, because that's what I owe the audience. I have to watch the movie and critique what the performance is. But unfortunately, when she is playing a character that is supposed to be this sweet and nice character who has good judgment and is asking for kindness from everybody, I'm watching this and it's pulling me out of it because I know this is too much. It's a little bit like the Mary Sue problem where you have no flaws. You have to have a little bit of a flaw. And when I know what her flaws are, suddenly it's like, no, you're selling me a line here. I'm not buying what you're selling.
Wait a minute, she's overcompensating.
Lauren, I have to ask you a question that somehow we did not ask during the review. Who's worse, Ray or 2025 Snow White?
Okay, so, well, here's the thing, is that Ray herself has the potential to be a good character if they had used her properly. The thing that they did with Ray, though, is she starts off sympathetic. She's got a similar background to Luke Skywalker in that she's kind of an orphan child living in very poor circumstances and doing the best for herself, so she's plucky. She's got a good start. But then she doesn't have to work for anything, and she doesn't really have anything that takes her down a peg that forces her to dig deep into herself and rise above her circumstances, and she inherits everybody else's stuff. That feels false and wrong to the audience, especially when she's doing it with a haughty attitude. That's a problem for the writers. It's not a problem for the actress. Had they written...
Again, Lauren, who are you describing, Ray or Snow White?
Ray.
Okay, because I don't know what's different about 2025 Snow White.
One is a problem with the writers. The other is a problem with the actress. I think had somebody else played Snow White with the same script, it would have hit different. I'm not saying it would have been a good movie, but you at least could have maybe gone along with it a little further than I think most people were willing to.
Okay, Daisy Ridley actually could have been a good Snow White.
Lauren,
yeah,
were you expecting at the end when the queen is turned into a black goo monster and sucked into an alternate dimension? Folks, for those of you who haven't seen the film, I'm not making that up. That's not a joke. You probably thought it was. No. When the evil queen, because she's angry and not because of anything that Snow White does, but she's just mad, the way the film ends is she's turned into a black goo monster and is sucked into another dimension. Lauren, did you expect Snow White to turn to the camera suddenly and say, I am Snow Skywalker?
No. I don't think that would have worked any better.
Okay.
But I mean, the whole ending, when they go to the dancing scene with everybody at the end, when everybody's wearing white, and even the dancing scene just looks off somehow.
Yes.
It's almost too energetic. I don't know. There's something about the whole
fake.
ending that just it really is, and a lot of that is because it's cobbled together, and you've got obvious insert shots, and it's just
If I can build on that, Lauren, it's fake because she is so the opposite of this kind, caring, empathetic person that it is impossible for her to bend as an actress enough to wrap her mind around what it takes to be that kind of person. And as a result, she comes off like that girl that you've met in your life who's fake nice to everyone. Thank you so much. Like, she's that girl. Everyone's met that girl. No one likes that girl, and that girl was up on the screen.
But my only pushback on that is it doesn't necessarily apply to everybody. Because again, and I know Jonas has referenced this before, Chris Evans, right? He can actually act, right? He can actually become Captain America.
Right.
Which means that Rachel Zegler can't act.
Yeah,
that's my
because
that's right.
Coming out of there, can't act.
A narcissist cannot think outside who they are because who they are is the universe.
Lauren, you were saying?
Just that I think that you're absolutely right, Steve, because I think outside of his characters that he plays, I don't particularly care for Chris Evans either. But when he's on the screen playing either Johnny Storm or Captain America, I buy it. I believe he's this guy, and he's inhabiting the role, and I like him when he's playing that role. Don't particularly care for him personally, but he's a fantastic Captain America. I wouldn't want anybody else to do it, honestly.
Same.
Well, sorry, Mr. Mackey. And that's where we'll leave it for today.
Jump into the water!
Why listen to music made by people and companies who really don't like you? Check out Vacation Radio today and prepare for all new content made by the people behind the WDW Pro Channel. It's the place you need for all the music. That should be fun.
Want it all, so I give them cannonball.
Hundreds of songs, every genre you can imagine. Listen live on YouTube and enjoy a set list that's always sunny. It's Vacation Radio. What are you waiting for? Every WDW Pro video has a link to Vacation Radio in the video description. Try it out and subscribe today.